Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cardano Live. I have Micky with us today. He's the CEO of World Mobile. He's the guy building that last mile. He's the guy who is connecting the unconnected. He's the CEO of the team. Lots of people working on this project at World Mobile to connect the unconnected. Micky, thank you for being with me on Cardano Live today. I appreciate it. How are you doing today, sir?
Rick, I'm awesome. Thank you very much for inviting me. I got to say, the music, I love it every time I listen to it. It's so upbeat and so happy.
Yeah, that's what I like. And happy Friday, too. Happy Friday to all the viewers. Happy Friday to everybody out there. What I want to let the viewers know before we get started, I've got links down below in the description that go to World Mobile's Twitter account, the LinkedIn tree, the World Mobile website. And the really cool feature you have in the links down below is go to that link tree, select that link, and then that will take you to all of the World Mobile media and information that's available out there for you. There's also other information down below. While you're down there, smash the like button, smash that subscribe button. And I just want to let folks know, Micky and I are here today. We're going to talk about the tech and the people. We're not here to talk about the token today. That will be possibly later next week. He has another person who can come join me on Cardano Live as the time approaches, who can talk more about the tokenomics. We're here to talk about the people and the tech today. And Micky appeared with Pay yesterday over on his channel. So Micky, thanks for, going out there and talking with the Cardano community. People love to hear the story of what you have to say and how you do it. So without further ado, can you tell us a little bit about what problem is World Mobile trying to solve? And then how are you trying to solve it? Let's start with the problem. What is the problem World Mobile is trying to solve?
Okay. The problem the World Mobile is trying to solve is that half the world is unconnected, and we know that there is a way to connect them. So obviously we are not going to be able to connect 3.5 billion people overnight, but this is the solution that we're looking for. So far, so good. We spent the last 3 years building out off-the-shelf networks and connecting the unconnected in a way that nobody else has. So this is the major solution. This is a huge problem. The World Bank, the United Nations recognize it, and so should we. When I say we, everybody on this planet, that every 1 in 2 people can't quite speak to each other. That's not right.
Yeah, and if you could put it into perspective for me, I live in a world where I have high-speed internet at my fingertips. I have gigabit bandwidth right in front of me. I have a mobile phone that has incredible internet connection all the time, except when I go in the mountains. What's it like on the ground out there when you visit other continents and countries, like the countries in Africa? This problem you're trying to solve, what's it like on the ground out there with their internet connectivity?
There's only one similarity, and that's the phone. So in Africa, in sub-Saharan Africa, where we've gone to conduct our feasibility studies, the one thing that we saw is that everybody had a device. It was the choice piece of entertainment. Has a torch, has power, lasts for 2-3 hours, can charge it overnight with the solar power, with the home solar power system, ready for the morning to travel. But that's about where it ends. There is no infrastructure outside of the rural areas. There is no electricity to charge those devices. There is no fast internet when you can find internet. You pay disproportionately for it. So the situation out there is pretty dire, and the people are amazing for what they're able to achieve so far without having the same access to the same services and tools as we do.
Yeah, and so these people, folks out in the remote and disconnected areas, they have mobile devices to connect with. Sometimes they have computers. What are you guys providing? Can you kind of walk me through from? There's a global internet out there, right? You and we're connected now.
It's not global. It's half.
It's half global, right? The 3.5 billion of us who are connected, and then there's 3.5 billion who are not connected. So we take the piece of the internet where we're connected. Okay. How does World Mobile, you and your team, bring that internet to those folks? Do you build hardware? What do you guys build?
Okay. We don't build any hardware. Our network is agnostic to hardware, so we like to support Cisco, Motorola, Ruckus, Ubiquiti, anything that is already pre-made, that's had billions of dollars of research and development. It makes sense, right? These companies have spent a lot of money in making sure that their solutions work, and for us to go and reinvent the wheel just doesn't make sense, especially in the rush that everybody is to be connected. You've got Africa. It's a very young age over there. If they haven't got internet right now, or they're not looking for internet, or they can't find internet, they absolutely are going to need internet for education to further themselves. So the World Mobile Network is a network that builds using existing infrastructure, that uses off-the-shelf technology. So let me run you back to the basics of how we build our network. So we come into a country, we buy a mobile network operator license, we go through all the regulation that you need to do so. Then we come to the regulator and we say to the regulator, look, we'd like to go after the market that is unconnected. In Africa, in sub-Saharan Africa, this can be up to 50 or 60% of the country. In Tanzania, for example, where we're launching in Zanzibar, around 48% of Tanzania is unconnected to the internet. So the regulator says, okay, great. You're trying to connect the unconnected. This is fantastic. You're not treading on anybody's toes. I don't have to really think about whether I give you a mobile network operator license, because actually intrinsically that's my job, is to connect as many people as I can in my country. He then says to us, but hold on, how are you going to connect the unconnected? So many people have tried before. So we begin to explain how we're going to connect the unconnected. We pick up on fiber inside the country like anybody else does. Any other mobile network operator. But what we don't do is we don't send our main connectivity pipe across GSM, across licensed spectrums. We pick up the fiber and then we use modern infrastructure like free space optics, TV, white space, CBS in order to distribute the bandwidth across the country. So free space optics, we're working with Professor Slim Aluni. He's pioneering the sixth generation of telecom. And for example, you put these big aerials, these big FSO lights, one on a tower, 12 kilometers away, another tower, and you're able to beam this high speed, 20 gigabytes per second across 12 kilometers, really effectively and really cheaply. And these devices are $1,000 or $1,500 per unit. So now you can start to think about, if you can do 12 miles this way, 12 miles this way, 12 miles, you've all of a sudden got a square. And within that square, anybody can connect, and you can start feeding off and start daisy chaining out or building the mesh network out. So that's what we do. We come in, we plug into the fiber, we find the best alternative way of providing the internet and making a backhaul. And also that can be high altitude platforms. That can be drones, flying 60,000 feet in the air, powered by solar, giving 70 square kilometers of coverage. It's all about using a hybrid network. It's not about using the legacy infrastructure. It's not about using the stuff that is the turnkey solutions for mobile network operators. And that's evident by the fact that half the world's left offline. There's 1,000 mobile network operators that serve us, and there's none serving the unconnected. And that's because they can't get there. It's simple.
Okay. What's the biggest challenge to getting your technology deployed in Africa? Is it the lack of mobile station operators? Is it the lack of, where the fiber comes in and you can set up infrastructure to connect to those internet backbone pieces? What's the biggest challenge you're facing with the installation process? Okay,
so the challenge that you find that the legacy mobile network operators is power. They don't have power out in the rural areas, so they're having to put diesel generators. The existing legacy infrastructure isn't made for low power consumption; it's high power consumption. So we don't have that. Andrew Soper, he's on our team. He's the chief commercial officer, but he's should be called Mr. Renewable Energy. He ran his business out there in East Africa for the MNOs to give them, backup power. So he's an expert at this. Delivering connectivity, like I said, for the operators, that's a very hard thing for them to do using their traditional spectrum and where they're going. For us, again, it's different. We hand off via Wi-Fi. Every handset is backwards compatible to Wi-Fi. We don't face the same challenges as the other operators do. We are the new standard of telecom network, and we've got to go and show that now in Zanzibar. But this is going to be rapid growth. This is going to be explosive growth, and we know that we can face this challenge really fast, and we've been doing it for the last 15 years of our careers. Now it's about piecing it together, and it's the moment. Technology, mindset, there's convergence. It's the perfect time.
Yeah. So when you were on Pace Channel yesterday, you were talking about there was earth nodes, air nodes, and different layers of the world mobile technology. Can you describe how that works, please?
Okay, so let's talk about the air nodes first of all. The air nodes are down on the ground in Zanzibar. The air node is a device that's made up of oversized solar panels, a pole, a wireless access point, like I said, from Ubiquiti or Cisco or Ruckus, Motorola, a Raspberry Pi that plugs into it, a receiver, transponder, transcoder that that sends or connects to our backhaul, which is the TV white space, the free space optics, fiber, point to point, using satellite can be many methods. And then finally, on the bottom of this device is backup batteries. So combined, this air node actually provides power to a village, enough to enable them to charge all of their phones, continuously renewing itself through solar. The solar is designed to last for over 10 years under extreme heat, doesn't really need looking after. The batteries are second life recycled from China, from the electronic vehicle revolution. And this absolutely transforms a village, right? You've got somewhere that didn't have streetlights before. There's a streetlight on the top of the air node. You've got somewhere that didn't have a centralized power point to charge your phone. You'd have to either have a home solar system yourself, which may or may not be efficient depending on how old it is, or you have to go to the town and charge your phone inside the town and then have it off and then only turn it on at the nighttime when it gets dark. So the air node is a very transformative piece of technology, and it's operated by the users on the ground, by business owners or by farmers or by cooperatives on the ground, and they get paid for hosting that air node. Then you've got the earth node. The earth node is the cloud layer, and that can be operated by anybody. There's a limited amount of earth nodes. The earth nodes processes messages, calls. This is one of the modules, and stores data and many other things. The second module is the Internode API that allows anything to call into the earth node and add future additions. And then you've got the third module, which is the blockchain module, which in this case is Cardano.
All right.
The Ether node is like a traditional telecom operator. It's something that works with legacy operators, because there's no point in having a mobile network that can't speak to the legacy operators. There's 1,000 of them, and there's half the world connected. So we built the Ether nodes to deal with all of the legacy protocols and to bring those into the world mobile network and outside of the world mobile network. And that's an extremely expensive piece of equipment. It's several rack servers, and it has lots of licensing. But it's an incredible piece of machinery.
Okay. And is that what World Mobile does? You get involved with the setup of that infrastructure?
Sure. Initially, we have to go and set it up, right? Nobody's built this kind of mobile network before. This is us. We've invented it. So we've pieced all these pictures, these pieces together to make this puzzle perfect. And now we've got to go and show everybody that this is the new standard. So initially, we will be the air node operators. At the earth node, we're just kickstarting the sharing economy right now, and you'll speak to Clint next week, Cedric from our community chat regarding this. But yeah, that's what we do. We will have to go and show an example now. So the next 3 to 6 months will be about building the network, showing that we can build an off-the-shelf network that can cater for hundreds of thousands of people. And then into next year, we'll move from the hundreds of thousands into the millions of people. And then people will start to recognize, and then companies will start to recognize and say, wow, you can do it a different way. And they'll help us. They'll come into the market to compete with us. But the competition is fantastic. That's what we need. You cannot go and connect the unconnected alone. You know, the benefit of connecting the unconnected is way beyond the benefit of just for World Mobile. The financial inclusion of all of these people is going to, the world is going to be a different place, right? You're unlocking the biggest gig economy in Africa. So the more players that come in to do this, the better. But at the moment, what we can say is the mobile network operators, they're stuck in their box. Their mindset isn't there, and it's not their fault. It's it's the legacy, the big tech companies that have stifled all the innovation. They've stopped companies like ours. They bought them out. They took their hardware, their software, they put it in a drawer and just let it shut, because they didn't need it. They were still selling to the big guys. So yeah, initially it's us. We have to show the example. We have to be the bank. We have to be the insurer. We have to be the digital ID provider. Of course, this is with IOHK. We have to be the people that lay down the air nodes. But within 6 months or so, the sharing economy should be working. Within a year, the sharing economy actually should be perfected, and then it's no longer us. Then it's the community building this network.
Nice. What do they need the most? Do they need more air nodes? They need more of these earth nodes? What's need all of the above? What's needed the most there in the countries that you are working?
It's not one thing. It's everything in one. It's providing the air nodes is critical to connectivity. But then mesh networks have existed in Africa and in third world countries. We shouldn't call them third worlds, but people do still, and soon it won't be. It will be the first world, beyond the first world, beyond what we've got, a better standard. But yeah. It's a very interesting situation.
Wow, it is. I had I'll tell you a little story about it. I had a fella on my podcast a couple months ago named Josiah, and he's a businessman in Nigeria, and he started building a team. because he saw the need for people to be able to save. So he started building thrift savings, right? And when we did a podcast, just like you and I are doing now, he would get his phone. He'd have to juice it up, make sure he had the minutes on there, and then he would connect. And we did the podcast, and when we're done, he would disconnect, and we would communicate over Telegram. He wasn't on Telegram constantly. He didn't just connect constant, but he'd check in on Telegram. I don't know how exactly he had to do it on his end, but he had to get connected, communicate.
A lot more effort than you and me, that's for sure.
Yeah, a lot more effort. It's just not there right at your fingertips instantaneously all the time. So very ingenuitive guy. Like, he got his team built. He's got project deployed on Project Catalyst. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. He's made a lot of progress, and I hope to have him come back on as well. But let's say I'm a business guy like Josiah, lives in Nigeria, and I want to set up an air node. Can you walk me through the process? How would I do it? How would this awesome guy go about setting up the air node? Who does he got to talk to first? Who does he got to download?
So this is how we've seen it go so far. Right now, we haven't rolled out any commercial rollout with World Mobile. This will be the first rollout in the next 2 weeks that is commercial.
Oh yeah, you're doing proof of concept. Okay.
We've feasibility study. I mean, one of the feasibility studies was 50,000 students across universities of Dar es Salaam, and then within a 25-kilometer radius, we were able to connect local areas. Another one was a smart village, which is where we found the impact of the air nodes to be incredible. But what I was saying before is, we'll go back to the Isaiah question, but mesh networks have existed, essentially air nodes have existed in Africa for quite some time. There's many initiatives to get people connected, but just connectivity alone isn't enough, because without identity, how can you really truly make use of that connectivity? If you can't identify yourself, we can identify ourselves, right? We have Visa, we have MasterCard, we have PayPal, we have bank accounts, we have in each country its own preferred method of payment. In Africa, they do too, by the way. There's over 500 million mobile money wallets running on mobile network operators. It's the biggest it's the biggest users of mobile money in the world. But without identity, you're really in a big trouble. You can't apply for school. You can't apply for you can't identify yourself. So what we've seen is, over the last 10 years, people have made very valiant efforts, including Facebook and Google, to go and connect the unconnected. But without providing a digital identity too, it's really difficult for them to take it to the next level and have the same access to the same sort of services and tools as we have. So for Isaiah, he would make sure that we have a license, and we would be marketing in Nigeria. And typically what would happen, it would be peer-to-peer. The one village that gets internet all of a sudden starts to attract attention, especially when it didn't have internet. One village that has streetlights all of a sudden starts to attract attention. So what we saw in the villages that we rolled out is villagers from other chiefs from other villages coming in and saying, "Hey, why don't we have internet? Who gave you internet here? Where do we buy this internet?" So what we know is the demand is so massive. The demand is so people need internet so badly that as soon as they get a sniff that it's there, even if they have to walk 7 miles and pay disproportionately to use the internet, they will, just like Isaiah. So typically we would have to be inside the country, but we're going to make enough noise to make sure that Isaiah would be able to get an air node. We're not going about this slow. This is not some slow plan. By 2030, we're going to connect 10 million people. By 2030, I hope that the World Mobile is an economic model connecting hundreds of millions, if not billions of people, and is not a network that I'm building. Is only a network that I'm facilitating by going into each country, buying those licenses, and creating and kickstarting a shared economy. Something that's never been done for telecommunications before, which is crazy, right? We've known for a long time, the World Bank, the United Nations, they've recognized connecting the unconnected. They've recognized that this is what needs to happen. They've recognized in order for the world to prosper as one, for people to get out of poverty, for have better healthcare, for better education, this needs to happen.
Yeah. So you're doing like the exploratory part where you got to go in and find the pain points and say, okay, we're going to set up this network and connect the unconnected. What problems do I need to solve to get there? So that's the kind of work you guys are doing. That's really interesting. And there's probably a lot that can come of this, because in the out years, there's going to be people local to the communities who are accessing World Mobile. They're going to need training. They're going to have to build the training systems to maintain those networks. How to use the technologies that are deployed, how to get their DIDs entered into the blockchain. So there's a lot of really cool stuff, businesses that can be built based on this technology. I'm going to just remind a few viewers, we got a few more viewers here now. Hey, let me know in the chat if you have questions about the technology or the people. I see a few questions coming up on tokens. We are not going to talk about tokens today. We will have an expert coming on in the near future. Cedric is an expert on the tokenomics. We can talk about that when we come to it. Micky is here. He's the tech guy, the people guy. He's the guy that goes out there and makes things happen, and we'll have a token expert come later on. So save your questions for the token expert. I'll let you know whenever we have that episode coming up on Cardano Live. So we're going to go back to the tech and the people. Do you have any stories to tell about while you're out there, while you're out building and deploying stuff? What's some of the coolest stuff you've seen? What do you got to say about that, Micky?
I've seen some crazy stuff in my life. I mean, half of it I wish I hadn't have seen. Half of it I'm very glad that I have seen and that I've been involved in. Ever since the immigration from Cuba into Miami, myself and my brother Ian Barnett, David Fox, Charles Barnett, they're all co-founders of World Mobile. We've been connecting people that couldn't afford to be connected, people that were paying the highest price, reducing their costs while still being profitable. I've seen crazy stuff, but I think the most crazy I've seen is what's coming out of the smart villages now. So if you take RJ, for example, I go back to what you said earlier on, we're finding the pain points. I think we've been finding these pain points for the last 10, 12 years. RJ, he's our partner on the ground in Tanzania. He's a co-founder as well of World Mobile. And he's doing the deployment in Zanzibar. So he rolled out Microsoft's network in Zanzibar. He was the choice partner for TV Whitespace. He's rolled out the USAID project network into hundreds of schools, solar powered energy using to run mesh networks and P2P, very, very experienced at finding the pain points. Now it's not really about finding pain points. Now it's really about making all of these pieces, all of our experience together and saying, okay, when we saw these villages, the impact that it had, you saw on the pay show, I've discussed it before, but it was incredible. We went there, we arrived, the team were there, they built the network, they put one air node in the center, one air node near the port, just the sea line here. Now these houses are built on mud, the sea comes in, and it really is like a remote area. So as we got out there, it was like, okay, are these guys going to use the internet? The next thing we know, they're coming to us and say, look, I've got 400 here. Can you drive into the town? The town's 50, 60 kilometers away where they could buy anything. And can you bring us more phones? Because we've got more internet, right? Can you buy us a fridge? So that was one of the interesting things was the villages actually have money. They work. There's no reason for them. They don't have a way to bank that money. They don't have a way to make more money with that money. They're quite stuck with that money, but they're very clever and they're very industrious. So that was, we expected to come back a month later. And I said to the guys, listen, we should come back and film this in a month. Coronavirus hit, COVID-19, the world went into lockdown. It all got scary. Marcus and the video crew couldn't get back out there. We couldn't get back out there. It was very hard to communicate. The network stayed up and down over an, I think, 8-9 month period. And for about that, there was 6 months of it where it was live. We finally got back. Marcus went there. RJ went there, and it was unbelievable. We saw the village had grown. They understood why they weren't getting visitors because of coronavirus. The chief of the village had seen pictures of China and India for the first time, being able to access and research that kind of stuff and use Google. Remember, they know how to use phones, right? The phone is a very common device out there. So you're not educating someone here. But what really got me was the emotional side really got me, right? I thought, wow, I had a tear down the chief had been able to see things he'd never been able to see before. But what really got me was a fisherman. So talk about kickstarting a sharing economy. Let's talk about kickstarting an economy. They didn't have a way to transfer money. They didn't have a way to do anything commercial. All they had was internet, power, and streetlight. Within a couple of months, they'd worked out how to export crabs to China and get paid for it. They'd worked out how to export crabs to fish to Zanzibar. They'd know the merchants now. They could send pictures. They'd bought themselves an ice maker, and then the fish was laying on the ice. They're 10 times the value. Now this ricocheted into the village. So 3 pubs opened, 3 shops opened. Then all of a sudden you've got streetlights where it gets dark at nighttime. The people they're able to do commerce at nighttime. They're able to open their restaurant for longer. They're able, and all underneath the streetlights began the high street, a new form of high street. So that's the learnings. That's the most amazing thing that I've ever seen. And in Tanzania, don't quote me, go to the team. They're the ones that have the real facts. But I think there's around 13,000, in between 12 and 14,000 villages. If we can go there and we can create a sharing, with the sharing economy, start to host these air nodes, we can transform not just Tanzania, but the kick-on effect from this is phenomenal. And that was all without financial services. So now imagine when they can have financial services, when they can have the same set of same access to the same set of tools as you, me, and everybody else watching this show, because half the world can't watch this show, then wow. And that's what's driven us on. That was the final part. That was, we'd put our own money, we'd invested. In the beginning, people were saying, come on, if Facebook and Microsoft haven't done it yet, and Google, how can you guys? And I'm saying it's because their business model's out of date, right? So, and then finally seeing this was, we said, we're going to go for this. We're going to go, what do they say? Pedal to the metal, right? And there we go. And that's what we're doing. So this is going to be one of the fastest deployment of any mobile network that's ever been seen in Zanzibar. Like I said, we're floating balloons, we're using drones, we're using wireless access points and fiber on the ground, and it's crazy. But it's you're connected to Wi-Fi now, so am I. So it's really possible.
Yeah. So these air nodes sound like they're one of the truly transformational technologies, and it's running World Mobile Technology on those as well as all the other things you just described. Is there an incentive for these node operators to build more? Because this sounds like a really cool approach.
Definitely. Of course, we have an algorithm that says you can only a certain amount of air nodes can operate in an area, because otherwise it wouldn't be fair. Someone could steal the monopoly or put 50 air nodes in one area, and it doesn't make sense. But I mean, these air nodes cost around $5,000 at mass to produce the entirety of the infrastructure. The ROI is a year and a half. This is an exceptional business opportunity for any person on the ground, any group or any, I see no reason why AT&T or Verizon eventually won't be buying these air nodes. They don't need to do what they're doing right now. They're all fighting each other. They're stealing our data, and not AT&T or Verizon, I don't quote that, but mobile network operators, they're selling our data to the highest bidder. They're profiling us because they have no other choice. They're cannibalizing each other because they have no other choice. There's half a world that's not connected. It's the incentive to create air nodes is not just the revenue that you receive from the air node. It's beyond that. It's like the Chronicles of Narnia. You open up the door, and all of a sudden you've got this world that's accessible to everybody that's on the network, because they've got the digital ID, because they've got affordable connectivity, because their life has been made all of a sudden similar to how we are able to live.
Yeah, and that gives people the power of the internet. People who are already ingenuitive enough to build all these commerce systems without the internet. Now you introduce more internet.
We haven't had the website. We haven't had the .com revolution in Africa yet, because no one's online. Only half of it's online. We haven't had commerce revolution. We haven't had the same spike as we've seen on this side. That's yet to come as soon as these people are connected, and they're going to have it even better than we had it. Inspiration to build the world mobile chain. Stop messing with our data. Stop taking a profile of us. Stop. Like that was my biggest inspiration, first of all. I didn't realize you probably didn't realize, and many don't, half the world was unconnected. What I did realize is that they're profiling us. They're keeping, they know when we go to the toilet, they know who our friends are. They know what we type even before we send it. They know too much, and they're selling that, and they're keeping that, and it's valuable. The world mobile, with an air node, all of a sudden you connect to this air node, you download an application from the air node itself, and you've got self-data governance. You know what they know. You control what they know. You choose when you want to share your information. This will set a new standard. So the incentive is virtuous, right? It's not just the operator running it. The operator running it doesn't need to really care that much. He just wants, or she just wants, or they just want to be able to make money. But the people using it don't want to damage it. They want to keep that because it's a tool for them, right? And all of a sudden, a mobile network that gives you your own data, a mobile network that gives you economic freedom of choice. What is this network? We never heard of this. This is a new thing.
Yeah. So as this new layer of the internet deploys in the remote regions of the world that currently don't have internet, they're going to end up with better internet than I have, at least as far as data mining goes. Like right now, when I use Facebook or Twitter or anything, actually my data connections going out, who I'm connecting to, when, and all that kind of traffic, that data gets scraped, right? But with World Mobile Technology, people will be able to encrypt locally and authorize locally, right?
Okay, we cannot stop a user from using legacy infrastructure or using Facebook. I use Facebook. I use WhatsApp. We cannot stop. But what we can say is, look, we make it less valuable for them to take our data because we own that data too. If you go to any one of these companies now, you say, please, can you give me all the data you have stored on me? They won't give it to you. They won't. They just simply won't because it's valuable to them. They won't even share it with anybody else. They even struggle to share it with the authorities because they know how valuable it is. Data is gold. Have you heard that before? It's, that's how they think about it too. So with the World Mobile Network, you won't be able to hide that, or you won't be able to control that because that's how their business models work. But what you have is the same. So now it becomes less valuable. So now people can approach you directly to say, hey, if you give me X, Y, and Z of your data profile, I'll be able to give you a top-up loan. And that top-up loan will come at 5% instead of a 5% a month cost rather than a 20 or 50% a month cost, right? So it'll be your choice. And when you have something that they have, it becomes less valuable.
Yeah. And what flags me the most whenever I do, I use a service and the service says I have to authorize them to release my data to a third-party service or not. At least if the person I'm dealing with, I release my private data to them, I'll know if they release it to someone else or they can't release it to someone else. Isn't that the case with the World Mobile Technology?
Yeah. So, that's what we've created, and that's what we're creating with IOHK as well, through the Italo Prism and then through our own developments. It's accountability, right? If you give someone your data, that's yourself, that's your person, that's your body. You want to know what they're doing with it, you want to trace it. So World Mobile, we're starting off very basic, but as we implement new features over the next 3, 4, 5 months, and you see mainnet come live, I think you'd be blown away.
Nice. And the mainnet. Oh, that's interesting. The mainnet. Is the mainnet, are you going to start, obviously in places that are already connected? Are you going to do tests like in the remote regions first where you have limited bandwidth, sometimes disconnected bandwidth? How's that going to work? I know we hadn't discussed that before, but it just kind of came to mind.
No, right now it's not tests. Right now it's a full rollout. So what's happening is RJ is about to install 25 to 30 sites in Stone Town. This will be the hub of our network in Zanzibar. From there, we'll start to spread out. We'll get it right. This is not about tests anymore. So we know that wherever we install, there'll be a quality service. People will be using it. They'll be paying for it.
Nice. And then that's what incentivizes operators to build these air nodes and such, is because there's revenues to be had, right? Somehow they get paid. Yeah. How does that work?
They get paid in their local currency. In the future, we'd like to pay. So an air node, you have to lock in World Mobile tokens in order to be able to run it. World Mobile token, you'll speak about it, like I said, in the future. But as a token, it's been created by some of the best in the industry. And again, Cedric will discuss that with you. But they get paid in their local currency because someone makes an investment. They don't want to get paid in a World Mobile token potentially. They'd like to be able to get paid and pay back their investment. They might have taken a micro loan. They might have taken the money from underneath the bed, or a grandma cooperative, or for a different kind of loan. So initially, it's a local currency or a stable coin. In the end, there'll be a split when people choose the threshold, where they want to speculate or not. But right now, we don't want to make this a speculative business. This should be, you buy something, the ROI is within a year and a half, and it's a viable, sensible solution because it's a business proposal that works.
Nice. Okay. And that was a question prompt that I noticed from George Haim, was how do air nodes get paid? There's a few other questions I can touch on, not token related questions though. Enoch Sosh, thank you, Enoch. Always have good. You'd like to see a deep dive in a presentation. And there was a question about what happens. Okay, so what happens when a severe thunderstorm blows in? That's kind of more on the hardware infrastructure. Have you seen anything with connectivity issues? Sometimes it's a thunderstorm. Sometimes it's loss of power, lack of power.
It's a great question. So if winds come in more than 120 kilometers an hour, our balloon tethers itself, it brings itself down, and it can stay safe until the wind comes. Then activates the TV white space network, which is not quite as efficient or as fast as the balloon, but it's definitely fast enough to give 3G style browsing, to give telephony, to give vital services. The network is hybrid. So if you're using just, for example, free space optics, as soon as you've got rain, you're in trouble. You're degraded because this is using light to light, and it just doesn't work. So then you have to have fallbacks and failback solutions. But this is actually what we're experts in. So don't worry. When a storm blows in, we've got it covered.
Nice. So so the hybrid. So that would include fiber, Wi-Fi, yes. Mobile. Is satellite on the table? Is things like Starlink, is that an option where it's an infrastructure that is in the background and you guys just use it transparently? How does that fit in the picture?
Starlink isn't ready as a commercial solution for the end user, and is unlikely that in Africa for many years it will be ready. Limitations due to physics and the positioning of the equator and how many satellites you need around the edge, but also the cost. Right? It's incredible what Elon is doing, and the Starlink team. But ultimately, you can't pass on this kind of cost to the end user. It's massively subsidized in the USA. It's very limited. However, we may or may not be speaking to Starlink in an African country. And if we were, then we would definitely be partnering with them to use them as a backhaul for a trial. And that would be interesting. And we're also speaking to other satellite providers, although that's not a confirmation that we are speaking to Starlink.
Okay, so that's pretty cool. This kind of projects, just so people know, they're huge. It's going to take course over a decade to completely implement. Actually, there's no such thing as complete. It's going to take a decade to build all of this infrastructure that's coming out. But it sounds like it's going pretty rapidly at the same time, and Starlink provides a nice underlayer.
Starlink or backhaul is okay. So look, the World Bank, United Nations, they've said by 2030 they would like to be able to have the unconnected connected. The global growth of coverage of signal grew about 1.3% for the last 2 years. So the chances of 2030 are very low. I think we may have found the solution in the sharing economy, and if we can get that right in Zanzibar and Tanzania, then I think that every person that's watching this and in the world will realize that we have got that. And if you get the sharing economy right, this is the solution to connecting hundreds of millions of people. Excuse me, carrying a cold, not corona. This is the solution to connecting hundreds of millions of people. And I think we can make that happen. It's with the off-the-shelf, the hardware and the demonstrations that we're going to have in Zanzibar, Tanzania. I can't see it going more than 3 countries without explosive growth, where we're able to just come in, set up the backhaul, which isn't particularly difficult. Other companies, Facebook, Google, Microsoft, have shown how to do this. Fiber's already been laid down by the Chinese and other entities, and it's there just waiting to be used. This can be fire. This can be something that no one's ever seen before. The biggest growth, and the people need it. It's a demand-driven business, so if it's there, they will consume it, just like they are now. It's a $60 billion industry in telecommunications without digital ID, without value-added services, just voice and data in Africa alone, and that's with 80% of sub-Saharan Africa, 1 billion people, 800 million don't even have access to any internet at all. Wow, so we can make it grow fast. That's what I'm trying to say. This is something that is going to go, and I'm hell bent to do it. I'll be out there on the ground. I'll be digging these air nodes. I'll be making sure that we're doing this as fast as we possibly can. The half the world, as much as this is a massively profitable opportunity, and our figures should show crazy margins to the network and for a telecom company, because we're having that value-added services that come from the digital identity. Yeah, this is huge. This can grow faster than anyone expects and anyone's ever seen.
Yeah, sounds like a truly transformational technology, and that's what kind of technology you need to get that kind of expansion going. So, Micky, are you okay with? I've got a few other like hardware or technical people-related questions in the chat. Are you okay if we touch on a few of those, and then we'll wrap the podcast up here in about 5 minutes?
Sure.
Okay. All right. So there was a few. So Jorge Ame asks, do you pay for the unlicensed spectrum? So you know how that works. You're a tech guy. Which spectrums are you using?
In some countries, yes. In some countries, you're trialing them and then will end up ultimately paying for them. But you'll never be paying for Wi-Fi, which is the final handoff. So when a user connects to Wi-Fi, this is already a massive saving in cost. For example, GSM is a 60% of a mobile network operator's costs, or at least come from the GSM spectrum. So by using Wi-Fi, you cut this off. But yes, eventually there will be regulations that come into using these alternative spectrums, but it will lower the price of communications in general.
That kind of leads to the next part. Are the regulators happy to see you? Are they giving you pushback? How's that going?
When you come into the country, they say, "Oh, not another mobile network operator," right? Because it's so already oversaturated and the oligopoly run it. When you come in and you say, "Hey, look, I'm looking to connect the unconnected," they're usually very happy because intrinsically that's their job. That's what they have to do. That's where that's what they need to do. And when we come in and support that, they're very, very happy.
All right, thank you. So mixed bag with the regulators. So Eric Kimla asks, are you using spherical airships? So I guess that's a type of relay for wireless communications.
No, he's talking about high altitude platform that floats at about 300 meters in the air, and it has a fiber feeding from it. Yes, we are, and they're very cool. And they carry 60 kilos of payload. There's others that carry 300. You can fit IoT on top of these. You can do the same thing as Helium are doing with 1 or 2 balloons. You can do wonderful things with balloons.
Nice. Are they robust and durable? Like they stay up for many days, many weeks at a time?
I actually don't know who Håkan Kolting was, but I'm pretty sure this is old technology. The Germans were using airships in the 1915, 1920s, 1925s. It's something that people have used for many years. It's just mobile network operators. They can't think out of the box, so they're not using them yet. But we are.
Nice. All right. And okay, thank you, Micky, and thank you, Eric Kimla, for that question. I have another one from my frequent flyer, Enoch Sosh. He has a question with Jason Appleton, also known as Crypto Crow. A lot of Cardano fans with Jason Appleton. He's a very well-known YouTuber, and I guess he asked about a plan with Puerto Rico, because Jason recently moved to Puerto Rico as Crypto Crow. So you guys are working with him in Puerto Rico.
So Crypto Crow, we met each other through James Bowater, and then we re-met, and he really took some interest in what we were doing. We've had a few private conversations. He's in for the long term, and he wants to build a network out in Puerto Rico. So we haven't actually delved that far. We're in Asia. We're in the African continent. We're just finalizing in Jersey a license, but we haven't got into Puerto Rico. So it could be really exciting, and we could document it and show. And it's a new level up, and Jason has showed himself that he would love to be part of our community. Lots of respect to him, and he really wants to make this happen. So Mark Savas, he's head of our regulation team. He is now compiling all the information to come into the country, and we're finding out. We're speaking to the regulators there, and it's something we hope in the next 2 months we'll be able to launch.
Yeah, that's incredible. Jason is a savvy businessman, and it's great that he was able to move to Puerto Rico and
very, very tall.
Find a business. Yeah,
7 foot tall.
Yeah,
no one's going to mess with him out there. Why do you think we chose him?
The gentle giant. Yeah, man, that's pretty awesome. I'm glad he's found that business angle out there in Puerto Rico. No, Puerto Rico is pretty well connected. I mean, I've been there before. It's the United States, right? But yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of work to be done out in the rural regions. Plus, this internet you're building, it sounds like it's better than the one I have.
It's more efficient. It's cheaper, that's for sure.
Oh, cheaper, more efficient. I like that. I like cheaper and more efficient. Let's see. I don't know if we'll wrap it up in just a minute here. Let me see if there's any other questions. We got the spherical airships covered. There's another project, U.S. clients. I don't know if we know anything about this. Andrew Booth says there's another project U.S. citizens are not allowed to participate and invest in. Are you working with the U.S. to allow its citizens to participate? I think that's a token related question. We can't do that. We can't touch on that.
No, I can answer that.
Oh, you can answer that? Okay.
Okay, so North Americans, we have seen a flattering amount of interest. But unfortunately, due to the regulations in the United States, we're unable to offer anything to do with the token generation event, or World Mobile Token. BVI is unable to offer that. But what I will say is that nobody is restricted from running an Earth node. We want everybody to be able to participate into the sharing economy and to be part of this. So Cedric will tell you more next week.
Okay. All right. We will touch on that one. Thank you, Andrew Booth. We'll touch on that one next week with Cedric. More about that later. And that's fair enough. I'm glad you touched on that, at least at this point, because
it sucks. It sucks. But we're a telecom company. Okay, look, if we were, and this is no disrespect to any other projects out there, but if we were just another project out there that didn't really expect to have mass adoption, like many of them claim, then maybe we could allow North Americans in. But we're a company that, when we actually get to that 2 million customer mark, people are going to want to shoot us down. People are going to be scared, and they're going to be threatened by what we're doing and how fast we're growing. Eventually they won't. Eventually they realize that we're just a new standard, and we'll support them, and we can work together, and it can be a very harmonious, symbiotic relationship. But anything that anybody can do to shoot us down, they may try. So we have to make sure that as a regulated company, as a company pushing for mass inclusion to get hundreds of millions of customers on in the next couple of years or more onto our network, we mustn't make any mistakes. So we've paid a lot for legal advice. The BVI company has made sure that they've done everything they possibly can to make sure that who we can include and who we can't include. And unfortunately, this is the situation.
You know, that I'm glad you touched on that. A lot of times, you know, Americans think the SEC is the bad guy. I mean, they're there to prevent scams, and they're there to, you know, protect people. And they're also aware. I follow Hester Pierce on Twitter, and I also watched the debates in the U.S. House and Senate 2 days ago. And they're aware that they don't want to stifle innovation. Like, so when you hit 1 million users, they know you have an innovative product here, right? And they don't want to stifle innovation, but they know that the heavy hand will squash innovation, right? So they're at least they're thinking about it now. Hopefully something comes of that. I think we have one last question that is a good question to wrap up the podcast. We'll be finishing up so that Micky can get on with his day. It's a lot later on his side of the world right now. All right. And we have another question from Eric Kimla, and he asks about employment opportunities. So I'd like to remind viewers, we got links down below. There's a really cool link called Linktree that links to the World Mobile Linktree. And from there, click on that link, and it will take you to all of World Mobile's social media outlets. And there you can find more information on everything that Micky's talking about today. And also, I didn't see it personally. I didn't view the employment opportunity section, but Micky, you have any comments on it? Employment opportunities? Do you need more people?
There is a careers page, and we do need more people. Please feel free to come to our worldmobile.io and our careers page, and we'd love to hear from you and anybody else. You know, if you're a developer, if you want to get out there on the ground, we want to make this very interactive. We want to show we can't do this alone. This is all about community. This is all about a sharing economy, and this is where it starts. So, you know, please contact us. Jump over to our Telegram group. I'll be out in Zanzibar in the next 4 or 5 weeks with the team, and you're welcome to come over there and lay some air nodes as well.
Nice. You'll be in Zanzibar, and
sure.
You know, I knew it, Micky, when I first met you, and I saw you on Pay's podcast and then talked to you earlier. I was like, this is a guy that he gets out there. He works hard in the field. I admire your work, man. I really do. People that get out there and turn the wrenches and make stuff, and they make stuff work. And that's fantastic. So thank you for that. Check out the employment opportunities at the links down below in the description as well. And Micky, thank you for being on Cardano Live today. I greatly appreciate it. I greatly appreciate it.
Lovely to be here.
All right. Do you have any last words you want to pass on to the viewers? Anything we might have missed or touch on, or are you good for the day?
I think I'm good. Thank you very much for listening. Right. And if there's anything you need, please come across to our communities.
You bet. And thanks. I appreciate everything you've done. And we will have a follow-up podcast in the coming days with Cedric, who's an expert on the token, and he'll be able to talk with you about token-related stuff, okay, as much as we can. Sometimes, you know, tokens are interesting. So thanks, Micky, for being here. We're going to wrap it up. Take care, everyone. Have a great Friday. Feel free to share this video with your friends and family so that they can get more information. Bye-bye.
Have a good weekend. Bye.